Hey everyone, welcome to this live stream. So today we are going to be looking at a new resin. I want to preface this by saying that we're not sponsoring, or we're not being sponsored by this brand, but we reached out and they sent us this resin. We asked them because we want to build a better library of resins that we can share with you guys. So this is eSun Green Castable Resin. So far I've done a few tests just off to the side. I'll show you those in a few minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit about it, how well it works. However, I have not had a chance to do any casting yet. We'll get there. I'm going to be doing a proper video about that later on, so if you want to subscribe to the channel, look out for that video. We can add it to the rest of the resins that we've tried in our little library of castable resins in the jewelry context. So throughout the stream, you'll notice here along the bottom we've got some codes. eSun has offered, I think it's 10% off for for these bottles. Well, actually, I guess it really applies to anything in their store, correct? Yeah. So anything in their store. If you're not familiar with eSun, they're a Korean company, and they're mostly doing a lot of filaments at the moment, but they seem to have branched out into resins, which is great. Nice to include everybody in the 3D printing world, I guess. Yeah, so far my impressions with this stuff are pretty good. This is what's the word? It was pretty easy for printability. I like to rate things on like a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of printability, castability, ease of use, generally things like that. So I printed. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, but we did bring up some images which we can put on the screen in a second. So we have like a test print, and these are very, very fine balls. They're a hollow bead. They have a sprue in place, and it's a nice test. It's on a raft, things like that. And then I've also got a few of my own designs. Now, bearing in mind, I printed these like a week ago. I wanted to test another aspect that I've noticed with castable resins particularly, and I just wanted to see how well they handled a certain aspect of shrinkage. So it's a general fact, I guess, among most castable resins that you print the piece, you take it right out of the printer, you wash it. There may or may not be a curing phase. In this case, I did cure them. I noticed that they were just really, really soft is the word I'm going to use. For example, like when I first pulled this out of the printer and washed it, this flat raft was like, you'd hold it here and it would just flop right over. It was like jello almost. So I took it on myself to cure them. I only cured them for like 2 minutes under UV light in the CW1, and it turned out great. It didn't cause anything to shrink and curl, as does happen sometimes with resins that should not be cured. So I think a cure stage is fair. Anyway, and then like I mentioned, I did this like a week ago. These are a couple of my own designs. They're like a dog tag. Now I left them in the CW1 for pretty much like 5 solid days. If you're unfamiliar with this particular machine, this plexi is like black, opaque. It doesn't allow any light in, and that's because the inside here, there's UV lights that shine all over the pieces as they're being cured, and you don't want any of that UV light to escape and get into your eyes or things like that or whatever. Anyway, this is very opaque. I left these inside so there was no UV exposure. Now, another thing to note is that we are currently in a basement. And there's only one light source, so even that wouldn't have been a great source of UV light. Now, these did curl a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see that very well. They curled a little bit, but the resin did remain a little bit flexible. Previous resins that I've used have been very rigid. In other words, like if they curl, there's no chance for you to bend this back without it snapping. This stuff is still fairly soft. Okay, now something else to note with this is a test bed I mentioned before. these hollow beads have a certain weight, and you know it's a good print if you get a certain weight. So I have this little scale here. This is accurate to 100th of a gram, I believe. So it's pretty accurate. Now what it should be is 0.184 grams, I believe. Now I believe that's without the little sprue. So when I put this on the bed, it comes up as 0.22. So I'm pretty sure this is an accurate count, that this was a good print. And overall, I quite enjoy the quality that I'm getting out of this. Just to be clear, some of these little bits, the little tiny support material that builds up, like the cage-like structure, are 0.2 millimeters in width. So it's very, very spindly. I can sacrifice this little one, like this is, I'm just kind of giving a little bit of pressure with my fingers, and it's pretty solid. Like it's not warping. I don't feel like it's gonna give, but I could probably, like any small model, you can crush it if you wanted to. So that's actually kind of scared. I don't want it to explode. I'm actually putting a fair amount of pressure on that, and it's not breaking, which is great. When I first got into printing, we were sending them out to another company, and they were printing these extremely detailed models on, I think it was a 3D Systems Projet 2500, like whatever the higher end one was. Massive bed size prints in a 2 nozzle type of situation. So like one is purple, it's a wax, actually a wax, not a resin plastic material. So it prints in like purple wax and an alcohol soluble white support material. So you don't have to deal with any of these, rods and little points. It's just like kind of encased in alcohol soluble stuff. Anyway, when we got those in the mail, sometimes I would just get like a little pile of purpley white dust because the models just broke. So that little strength test gives me some confidence that if I had to print this material for a client who was then going to get casting done on their side, I would feel very comfortable knowing that it's probably going to arrive to them in the same state as it left me. It's pretty durable stuff. So these printed well. I did notice a little bit of printing issues with this is my own model, by the way. This is these are snakes that are meant to be kind of like ear weights. I have gauged ears. I'm up to 2 gauge now. These small ones are 2 gauge, I believe. And then I upsized this one, like I think 200% or something. I don't know what that one is. Maybe it's a 0. Anyway, doesn't matter. One of them had their heads break off. I noticed that the support material on this side kind of just broke. It looks like it almost sheared, but anyway. I also know there was a little bit of problems with my model. When I was building this in ZBrush, there was it's hard it's almost impossible to show you guys, but there's like a little gap here, and when I attached the head, I think there was some kind of like underlying layer that didn't get deleted, and that kept the two separate. So maybe in the slicer there was like, that fraction of a millimeter that just didn't print. Anyway, the head broke off, took it off its supports, and I noticed a little bit of what's the word? Like sagging underneath here, which is generally something that does happen with larger models printed like this. There's just no way you can support every possible area without having a little bit of sag. But I mean, it's acceptable. It was all planned. If you plan ahead for stuff like that, you can always sand it off. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, the less work you have to do, the better. But it's just not always possible. So something I will note, the detail is very, very good. I am still very much a newbie when it comes to ZBrush. So I have quite it's not really a problem, I guess. It's just like I have a hard time grasping exactly how much depth is required, you know, like in ZBrush to translate into a 3D printable object. On the bottom of the snakes, I've got like the little, like the ribbing area, you know, where what they use to propel themselves forward. And then there's, of course, the scales on the outside. And where it all showed up as best it could. I believe I didn't go nearly deep enough with my design, so you know, it could have been better, but it did print. It did print well enough as I can expect, and that's because of my fault. I wouldn't put this on the resin by any means because it's just too fine a detail. Something else is that because this is a semi-transparent green resin, seeing details is a little difficult. I've always noticed that with any light colored resin. When I get, you know, orders for white, it's like quality inspection is just such a pain because it doesn't even photograph well. Maybe it's because my lighting isn't great, or a number of factors. But light colored resins just don't show the details as nicely as, say, a dark or a gray color. So that's just my own personal thing. Maybe something that others share, but it's a non-issue. It's just, you know, if your design is good and everything's where it belongs, then it should be fine. So there's that. So I just want to go into the codes briefly. Now, because eSun runs off of Amazon, if you need information about the resins, go to their website, but you won't be able to order from them directly, I don't think. So go to their Amazon. There are two separate ones. There's Amazon USA and there's Amazon Europe. So if you want 10% off, believe it's December 20th to the 21st from noon to noon. 10% off eSun US 2021 for that 10% off. They will be doing more Christmas sales stuff later on, so look out for both. But if you want to get a jump on it, you know, shipping wise and things like that, maybe order a little earlier. And then for Europe, December 22nd, again 10% off, eSun EU 10 off, and that should all be below as well, just so you know. And we'll also put it in the description. This video is going to be it's going to remain on our channel and be viewable later on. Okay, so in terms of cost, by the way, speaking of pricing, this stuff goes for, this is 500 milliliters, and it goes for, we broke it down into grams and then like a total cost. I think it was $95 US for 500 mil in this nice stainless packaging. It's quite nice. I really like it. I might actually try to wash this bottle and save it, like maybe for other resins. In the past, we've done custom colored resins, like with the CMYK kit, and there's always been a problem. Like, well, where do you put it when you mix, you know, a little bit too much? You don't want to just dump it or cure it, and then it's just a bit of a waste. Anyway, nice bottle. Keep that. What was I saying? $95 US for 500 mil, which actually is very reasonable. What are we talking for other bottles? I think it's like $100 for, I hesitate. I'm not really sure if I should be mentioning other resins. If you look back on our channel, we did Power Resins recently. They do 250 mil bottles. Those are $100. Now, I'm not going to get it into too much detail, but that basically puts this very, very affordably at the low end cost-wise for castable resins in a jewelry grade. Definitely worth trying. Again, I got to mention, I haven't done the casts yet, so in terms of printability, I'm going to give this like, I don't know, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 in terms of printability because it was just easy. But I haven't done the casting yet, so hold on for that video for the final verdict. Power resin, sorry, my lovely assistant here is telling me what it is per gram. So eSun stuff comes in at 19 cents a gram USD. Power resins was 39 cents a gram. So if that gives you an idea of cost-wise, it's definitely worth a shot. Plus the 10% off, don't forget that. Okay. So relative to other resins, just talking about printability, I'm gonna rate this not at the top. I've been won over hardcore by Power Resin's Dark. Like, just I can't beat it yet. But I'm gonna put this definitely near the top. And just in terms of printability, final review verdict will be in after I do the casting, and of course we will list that on the channel later on. In terms of printability, it's really easy. The exposure setup that I'm using for the SL1 is, sorry Shannon, I can't see that. Oh, sorry, it was 70 seconds for the base layer to attach it to the bed, and then it was 13 seconds every layer after that. I didn't use any super fancy settings. I'm not using bed primer or anything like that. The bed is exactly as I got it, which, if you're unfamiliar with printing so far, this is pretty scratched up. Maybe you can see that, but it had like a sandblasted finish. I find that's enough. I've never had to use a primer, and the only time I've ever had build adhesion problems was at the very beginning, and that was actually a problem that we had with the FEP, not with the build plate itself. The FEP, if you're unfamiliar, if it's too clean, you will get like really the model just wants to stick to it. It doesn't separate as nicely. So instead of using solvent, ISP or dentured alcohol or ethyl, whatever you're using, to wash your models, if you use that to clean your FEP, you're more likely to get a little bit of sticking. The model won't separate quite as nice, and then if you don't have perfect build adhesion to the bed, it will separate. So that's something to consider. I've heard of people sanding the beds. I'm a little iffy with that because this is a machined calibrated bed that's perfectly flat, and even if you put sandpaper flat on the table, just the inconsistencies of pressing down, I don't know, it's just something I wouldn't advocate for. But of course, try it if you're having build adhesion problems. A little bit of light sanding just to give it a scratch and have the resin attach into something is worthwhile. But if you know someone with a sandblaster, get them to sandblast it, because that won't take off any extra material. It keeps it all nice and flat, and it gives it the little ridges that it can grasp. So that helps a lot. I noticed with build adhesion, this stuff was really quite good. Remember that I did say it was almost like Jello when I pulled this off, like it just flopped right over. I just got right under, and it slipped right off very easily. So it was good for that, but it wasn't hard, but it could have been harder. So maybe that was because of the 70 seconds initial layer. Sometimes we've gone up to 100 seconds, and it's all worked out there. So I think that one is a little bit variable. So just something, sorry, had a little bit of a blank there. So eSun is actually having a holiday contest where if you create a 3D model of a Christmas ornament, there's a chance for you to win filament, resin, coupons, just a whole bunch of swag, as it were, from eSun. So if you're interested in that, feel free to head on over to their website and see what's up with that. I believe that goes between December 15th and January 15th, so you have a whole month, and the link will be in the description below. Do you have any questions, Shannon? No questions? Cool. Oh yes, sorry. So to submit that, the eSun contest, the ornament thing, go to their Facebook page, and I believe you send them the file, they'll print it, and they'll judge it. I'm not really sure how it works, but either way, you have a chance to win stuff, so definitely take a look at it. eSun is a bit more familiar with the filament side, as far as I'm aware, but if you have if you have both printers, ideally you'd have FDM and an SLA or MSLA printer. You could win all sorts of things, so that's kind of fun. So there's no questions, but I can talk a little bit about the printer if you like. So the reason we went with an SL1, we got it when it was on pre-order, like just announced. It seemed like it was right in the mid-range in terms of cost to quality, maybe is the word I'm looking for. I'm not really sure the best descriptor is, but like, we get plenty of comments on our channel all the time about what's the settings for the Mars, what's the settings for the Photon and any qubits and stuff. And $200, great. It sounds awesome. But I was just a little bit hesitant because we use this for business purposes, for printing jewelry. It needs to be a high quality. It needs to be reliable. And the Prusa brand, I think, just stood out. And I think the i3 is still the best rated FDM printer available. I'm not sure about the upgrade kits and things, but they're still very well rated. And so far, my experience has been awesome with Prusas. At one point, I had to change the FEP on the bottom of my tank, and I sheared a bolt by accident just using hand pressure. I mentioned it to them, and I had a new tank at my doorstep within like 3 days, coming from Czech Republic to Canada. That's really, really good. That's like express, no questions asked. They just like, no problem, bam, service, perfect. I would challenge other companies to do that as well, to hold to that level of standard. Overall, I just really like the build. Like, they're a heavy machine. I've had to do only one little bit of maintenance so far, where I changed the screen. I've only had to change the screen once. The screens are considered consumable. They have about a 500-hour life. I think I got just slightly more than that. Hard to say because there wasn't a proper counter in the software, the firmware version I was using. I think they might have changed that now, or if it's not, I think it's definitely something they should add. Prusa. Overall, yeah, we just kind of aim for the mid-tier because there's like anti-qubits, Mars. Maybe we put the SL1 in the low mid-range, and then there's like the Solus and the Envision Tech and the Saigas, and they're great. Nothing against those machines. They're phenomenal, but they're also $10,000 plus, and that's just a bit out of my price range, and I'm sure many of your price ranges as well. So in terms of quality, I felt like this was a great compromise in terms of machine and the printability to cost. I feel this is a personal thing, don't quote me on this, but maybe some of you viewers or soon-to-be viewers were around at this time, back when computers were in their infancy, and you'd see those old magazine ads with big pop-out things like, 128 megabytes, all you'll ever need, only $8,000. Well, we outgrew that pretty quick, didn't we? I think 3D printing is at a similar stage. We're getting to the point now where you can have a 3D printer for $200, and they are coming down. Resins are getting better. We're at a very rapid arc in terms of how 3D printing is developing, and I just didn't feel like it was worth spending 8,000 more, just so many thousands of dollars on a machine that's going to become obsolete. At least this was something I can swallow, but I can still get a decent amount of value out of, and it is open source, so that's why I went with the SL1, and I don't regret it. Something that I know I see a lot of, not necessarily on our channel, but on Facebook groups, is I want to try this resin. It's so good, but I hate to pick people out, but like I have a Form 3 or a Form 2. Well, it's like an ecosystem with the forms and the Saigas and stuff, where you have to have their resins and their profiles, and that's great because you know that it's going to work. There's an absolute certainty that you're going to get good results with an ecosystem type of printer, but it's also very limiting if you can't. So this one's open source. I can put whatever I want in it, and we can just play around and see how well it works, which is all really, really good. just in terms of, personal development, development of 3D printing in general. Yeah, that's just one of my attitudes, my little philosophies. So, any questions? Okay. All right, so no questions, that's okay, no problem. So if you're feeling, if you feel like you want to get more out of our channel in general, we have a lot of videos coming down the pipeline. We just moved into a new studio space, which I'm very excited for. I've never had my own, kind of commercial spot before, and it's scary, but it's also really good in terms of, having the space to just make a mess sometimes. So that's great. We have a lot of videos coming down the line, not just about 3D printing, but about jewelry making in general. And it can apply to other things as well, like miniatures and small sculpture, D&D, gaming, things like that. So feel free, if you're interested and you want more information, maybe you need help setting up your own system, or casting setup. You want to know more about melting metal or the investing process. There's so many different steps that we can talk about. Reach out. We're always getting questions. We also have a membership program somewhere down here that you can look at. We offer, when we review a resin, we'll provide the printer profile for that resin, as well as our results. We'll give you some more in-depth information about some of our views that maybe didn't make it into the video. And yeah, so look for that membership program. Sorry. Oh yes, sorry. I don't have my glasses on. I don't have great lighting either. Rather, all the lights in my eyes. For our members, get some perks as well. There's different tiers. First members will get, or the lowest tier one will get a resin list, and there's also lots of information that comes with them. The highest end comes with like a discount that can come on any of our products, courses, whatever we're offering for sale. That's every month you get another code, and you check that out below. I'm not going to get too much into detail. Honestly, I've almost forgotten what goes into those memberships. Sorry, I'm being told something rapidly. Yes, the resin ranked list. I did mention that before. We've tried a bunch of different resins. That's something that if you go for the lowest tier, we'll give you the resin ranked list and support from our end of how well it handled in terms of castability, recommended settings, just observations that we can help you with. Okay, so again, I want to reiterate, there's a discount code, Amazon US, between December 20th and 21st, noon to noon, 10% off anything in their store, I believe, but specifically if you're interested in jewelry, give this a try. And that's eSun US 2021 through Amazon. If you're in Europe, December 22nd, again, 10% off, eSun EU 10 off, and that will be for the European client customers only. So, oh, sorry, last little thing. They have their holiday, just to reiterate again, their holiday eSun ornament contest. Submit a 3D model, they'll print it, judge it. You have a chance to win swag, filament, resin, coupons, stuff. And that's good between December 15th and January 15th. Okay? So that is going to be the end of our stream. We didn't get any crazy questions or anything, but feel free, please like and subscribe if you liked kind of what we're doing here. Please check out all our other videos. We have plenty of others information wise, and if you're interested, like and subscribe. We're always interested in growing the community. However you can help would be much appreciated. So that's it. That's all. I will see you guys in the next one.